Good evening. I'm your host, Whiskey Mike, and this is your MPN briefing for today. The final week of January finds the international community at a volatile crossroads. From the Caribbean to the Middle East, the geopolitical landscape is being reshaped by a more aggressive America First posture. While the domestic policies in the West lean into the controversial promise of total AI surveillance. As economic collapses trigger unprecedented violence abroad, nature provides its own display of force through a distorted polar vortex, reminding us that both political and environmental climates are reaching a breaking point. Havana remains in a state of high alert as President Miguel Diaz-Canel supervised large-scale military exercises this past Saturday. The maneuvers, which included tank units and civilian defense drills, are being framed as a direct deterrent to Washington following a month of escalating tensions. The drills come on the heels of inflammatory remarks from President Trump, who recently declared that Cuba is ready to fall following the U.S. military operation that deposed Nicolás Maduro. Trump has warned Havana to make a deal before it is too late, while simultaneously vowing to zero out the island's oil supply by blockading shipments from its former Venezuelan ally. President Diaz-Canel issued a blunt warning to the White House. The best way to prevent aggression is for imperialism to have to calculate the price of attacking our country. Cuban officials emphasized that the exercises are part of the War of the Entire People strategy, a doctrine designed to mobilize the entire population in the event of a U.S. invasion. As the energy crisis on the island deepens due to the loss of subsidized oil, Havana appears to be leaning into military defiance rather than diplomatic concessions. In a move that has sent shockwaves through civil liberty groups, UK Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood has unveiled a radical plan to integrate artificial intelligence into the very fabric of British justice. Invoking the Panopticon, the 18th century prison designed where inmates are kept under constant, unseen observation, Mahmood described a future where technology ensures the eyes of the state can be on you at all times. The proposal seeks to move beyond traditional policing, using AI to create a prison without walls for offenders and eventually a predictive surveillance network for the general public. This announcement follows a £140 million tech upgrade for UK police, including AI-powered vehicles equipped with live facial recognition. In a move toward a total surveillance state, Mahmood's vision aims to achieve what philosopher Jeremy Bentham only dreamed of, a system where the mere perception of constant monitoring deters crime before it ever happens. This shift towards total judicial integration is already gaining momentum as AI proves reliable in increasing arrest rates, leading the government to expect the technology will soon assist in sentencing and automated judicial reviews. However, operational concerns are already mounting. In Manchester, reports have surfaced of officers relying on AI assistants to interpret criminal law and manage operational data. Critics argue this creates a dangerous technological crutch, where a lack of human legal knowledge could lead to wrongful detainment or convictions based on algorithmic bias. While the Home Office insists these measures are essential to get ahead of the criminals, opponents warn that the UK is sleepwalking into an Orwellian reality, where privacy is a thing of the past. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, elected in 2025 on a platform of strategic autonomy, has officially declared that a free trade agreement with China is not on the table. This announcement, made this past Sunday, follows a massive 100% tariff threat from President Trump, who warned that Canada could become a drop-off port for Chinese goods aimed at American markets. Despite the firm stance against a full trade pact, Carney defended a separate, sector-specific preliminary agreement reached with Beijing on January 16th. That deal was designed to de-escalate a 2-year tariff war that has devastated Canadian farmers. The deal at the heart of the current tension involves a high-stakes trade-off that Ottawa is calling a necessary reset. Under this preliminary agreement, Canada will allow a quota of 49,000 Chinese electric vehicles to enter the country at a modest 6.1% tariff, effectively bypassing the 100% duties originally established in 2024. In return for this concession, Beijing has agreed to slash its retaliatory 85% tariff on Canadian agricultural exports, including vital sectors like canola and seafood, down to 15% through the end of 2026. Addressing the Canada-US-Mexico agreement, Prime Minister Carney emphasized that Canada is still honoring its North American trade obligations, stating firmly that the government has no intention of pursuing free trade with any non-North American market economy without prior notification to its allies. However, President Trump remains unconvinced, taking to Truth Social to warn that if Carney thinks he is going to make Canada a drop-off port for Chinese goods, he is sorely mistaken. The humanitarian crisis in Iran has reached a catastrophic inflection point. Leaked documents obtained by international monitors suggest the death toll from the ongoing crackdown may exceed 36,000, nearly 6 times the official figures reported earlier this month. Verified video footage, smuggled out despite a near total internet blackout, reveals a grim landscape of bodies piled in the streets and state riflemen positioned on rooftops. The unrest, which began on December 28th following the total collapse of the Iranian rial, now valued at a staggering 1.5 million to $1 USD, has devolved into what many are calling the deadliest period of state repression in the country's modern history. The anatomy of the Iranian crackdown has reached a gruesome stage, with eyewitnesses reporting the use of 18-wheelers to transport mountains of bodies to a critical lack of ambulances. Despite these reports, and hospitals in Tehran and Karang being reportedly overrun, Iranian Foreign Minister spokesperson Amiel Bakai has issued a vehement rebuttal dismissing the claims of mass casualties and the use of non-medical transport as a Hitler-style big lie. This state-sponsored violence is unfolding against a backdrop of total economic ruin. The rial's plummet has erased the life savings of millions, turning basic necessity into luxury goods and fueling a desperation that has seen protests spread over 400 cities. In response to the escalating violence, President Trump has ordered the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier strike group into the region. Describing the fleet as a massive armada, Trump has issued a stern warning via social media, stating that while he'd rather not see anything happen, the U.S. has a lot of ships heading in that direction just in case. This massive military buildup signals a clear U.S. willingness to intervene if regional stability continues to disintegrate or if the Iranian government moves toward further mass executions. North America remains in the grip of a historic winter storm that has paralyzed a 2,000-mile stretch from northern Mexico to New England. While the devastation, including widespread power outages and record-breaking snowfall, has reignited debate over climate change, meteorologists are pointing to a specific high-altitude culprit: a distorted stratospheric polar vortex. Typically, the polar vortex is a stable, cylindrical, spinning top of freezing air confined to the North Pole. This week, however, that top has lost its shape, becoming dangerously ovular and elongated. To wrap up our briefing, we look at the science of the freeze. MIT climate scientist Judah Cohen explains the current chaos through a rubber band effect. When the polar vortex is circular and strong, it bottles the Arctic air up north. But when it stretches thin, like a rubber band, that air snaps southward, engulfing the United States. This historic blast is being driven by a rare collision of forces. A sharp southern dip in the jet stream has acted like a vacuum, pulling frigid air from the stretched vortex deep into the mid-latitudes. At the same time, record heat in the Gulf of Mexico and the Pacific has acted as warm ocean fuel. When this tropical moisture meets the Arctic air, it triggers the massive amounts of freezing rain and potentially historic ice accumulations currently stretching from Texas to the Carolinas. While the extreme cold might seem to contradict a warming planet, scientists note that a warming Arctic, specifically record low sea ice in the Barents Sea, may actually be making these vortex stretching events more frequent and intense. As of today, emergency declarations remain in effect for 24 states, with the vortex still stretched thin. Meteorologists warn these sub-zero anomalies could linger well into February. Stating firmly, the government has no...
Oh, I forgot to press play.
One job. You have one job. Let me do this again. I love doing this line. This is my favorite line. This is my favorite line on the Citadel.
Last one.
I was holding on for dear life.
Oh, I could tell. That one was... There was a lot in there.
Finn! Woo!
We're done.